Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and good evening. Welcome to the podcast One is a Crowd. My name is Robert Rosario, and I will be your host. At the beginning of these podcasts, I would like to take some time and get you guys to resonate with me. I know you've probably had a long day at work, probably a long day at school, maybe at home taking care of the kids, whatever you're doing. I know it's stressing you out. So let's take a minute, let's close our eyes, let's take a few deep breaths, and let's go ahead and relax. Now, as we go ahead and relax, I also want us to appreciate ourselves as well. We go through life thinking we're doing what we got to do to survive. It's like it's almost like a code imprinted in our minds. It's like it's just easy as breathing, if you want to say it like that. You just do what you got to do, and you don't worry about nothing else. Well, it seems while we do that in life, we don't take time to appreciate ourselves. See, the thing is that we don't necessarily have to do the things we do. We could just say, fuck it, and just walk away from our responsibilities. Sure, life won't be easy, and sure, life's going to be pretty shitty if you do that, but you're just showing how driven you are as a person to live a decent life. No matter what situation you're in right now, you're still pushing, and that's what matters. So now that we've taken this time to appreciate ourselves and relax a little bit, I want to go ahead and let y'all know that I am a marijuana connoisseur. I do partake in smoking every once in a while, so if you do hear some bubbles, bubbling in the background, that's just me getting in tune with Mother Nature. So, I don't know how many of you actually look up things in terms of astrology or space or anything like that, but there is I don't know what to call this exactly. I don't know if this is a theory or if this is something that's actually real, but we just don't know how to explain it correctly. There is a thing called the Great Attractor. I heard about this, I think, a few months ago, and from what I remember being told by it is that it's pretty much a mass, like a super mass in the center of the universe, and it's so massive that it's pulling the Milky Way toward it at over 2,000 miles per hour. And scientists aren't really sure exactly what it is, from my understanding, but I'm going to go ahead and look it up real quick and give y'all the basic details on this, just so I don't sound like too much of an idiot. Alright, I got it right here on the Wikipedia page. Probably not take this with a grain of salt, but the Great Attractor is a gravitational anomaly in intergalactic space at the center of the Laniakea supercluster that reveals the existence of a localized concentration of mass tens of thousands of times more massive than the Milky Way. This mass is observable by its effect on the motion of galaxies and their associated clusters over a region hundreds of miles of light years across. The Great Attractor is moving towards the Shapley supercluster. Um, I really wish I could break that down some more, but this is something that I myself am not too educated on. I just find it really interesting reading up on things like this. I like thinking of the unknown and everything like that. So space is something very unknown to us. Other than a few astronauts who go up into space, I mean, what do we know? Other than what we read in books and what we hear about, NASA projects and stuff like that, we don't know anything. We've never been to space ourselves personally. I mean, unless you're an astronaut who's listening to this, well, if you have, please send me an email. Let me know your experiences. Are aliens real? I would love to know. But it's interesting to see all this mumbo jumbo that apparently is in space. You got like superstars like 100 times bigger than our sun. There's other planets that have crazy atmospheres and crazy temperatures that we couldn't even imagine going through. We'd probably instantly, no, I'm sorry, not probably. We would instantly die on any other planet unless it was Earth. unless we colonized it. But some of these planets are ridiculous. Like, I know I read of one planet whose surface temperature is so hot that the planet itself looks like black, but it's just a super dark red, and the whole of the planet, like what would be considered the crust, is completely molten. So it's just ridiculously hot to the point where there's like no physical matter that can like, what's the word I'm looking for? Pretty much, man, there's no rock formations. It's just magma. It's like a big planet of magma. Just like there's another planet that's just one giant ocean that goes on miles and miles and miles down, all the way to the center. And they say the core of that planet, that the ocean planet I'm talking about, they say that core is just covered in ice. Where we are used to hearing that the core of our Earth is molten iron and stuff like that, they're saying that the core of this water world is a big sphere of ice because of the amount of pressure the ocean itself is putting on the core of that planet. So I don't know. It's crazy. I mean, it's really crazy. I wish I could learn more about this stuff and, you know, experience it myself. Like, maybe go to NASA and look through a telescope and see things like this. Even though I'm pretty sure they'd only be like a little speck of white light in like a big black sky. But still, just seeing it is the experience that matters. Speaking of that, it's the experience that matters in a lot of things in life. I'm going to go ahead and break away from space for a minute and just talk about really life in general. Do you believe in coincidences? I mean, I do, but at the same time, I feel like sometimes a coincidence is just a glitch in the matrix, maybe. But let me go ahead and share a story with you guys that recently happened. And this is also the reason why I couldn't upload this podcast on Saturday. So I'm actually recording this live right now. It's 9:52 p.m. Yesterday, Saturday, it was November 25th. I was supposed to upload my first episode of One's a Crowd. And Lord all behold, I got my microphone that I ordered. And I was excited. I was really excited to get this thing going and all that. I came to set up the microphone to the computer that I was using at the time. And for some reason, the computer just blacked out. There was no... excuse me. There was no warning. There was no nothing. My computer just froze the minute I plugged in the microphone, and then it crashed. Like, the screen flashed, and then the computer died. And my first thought was, what the fuck just happened? So I'm sitting here trying to solve what's going on. I'm trying to turn the computer on, and it'll boot up, but the screen stayed black. I tried messing with the connection to the monitor to see if maybe something unplugged. Nothing like that happened. So I thought maybe the microphone blew my computer. So I thought it was a faulty microphone. So this may not, seem like something to do if you just plugged in a microphone that blew up your computer. I took the microphone and I plugged it into another computer. It loaded up. The software for that microphone loaded up, and it was working perfectly fine. So I was just baffled that this microphone being plugged into my computer ruined my computer, but plugged into another computer, it was running perfectly fine. So that kind of upset me. Not only because the computer was destroyed pretty much, but because everything that I had on that computer, being, my writings and some ideas that I've had and pictures and things like that, all of it was gone. Now, for a while, for plenty of years actually, I want to say about 7 years, I've been writing, and every time I get to a certain point, it was always taken away from me. Like, the first time I had completed writing my first 4 books, my mom heard a rumor that Daddy Yankee died, and she went onto my father's computer, and that's where I had my book stored. And she ended up looking to see if Daddy Yankee really died, where she didn't want to listen to me or my sisters telling her he didn't die, he's still alive. But, she's doing what she's doing. Oh, and keep in mind, my mom does not know how to use technology. So, her going on a computer, it's like putting an infant behind the wheel of a car. They're not going to know what the hell they're doing. But all she kept doing was clicking links and clicking links and clicking links. And one of those links happened to lead to a malware virus that just destroyed my dad's computer. It destroyed his computer so bad that nothing was recoverable. Excuse me. But nothing was recoverable. So all those months and years that I put into writing those books were wasted. They were gone. And everyone that I had saved to a certain email, I was locked out of that email. I couldn't remember the password because I had made that email so long ago, and I was so used to being signed in on it all the time on that computer. That being my fault because I should have written down my password. But, that was in the past. But anyways, all that was gone. That was the first time. The second time it happened, I tried it on a computer again, and I got through 2 books instead of 4 this time. And right as I was getting ready to start my 3rd book, the computer I was using at the time blanked out again. Like, this one got a blue screen for some reason, and the hard drive crashed on it, and I was dicked. I was up a creek. So that was demotivating to me. I was destroyed. I was like, wow. So it happened a few more times after that, back to back, and then just recently, yesterday, it happened again. So I sat there and I was thinking to myself, is it really worth it? Is it really worth it to put all this time back into these projects that I've been trying to do just to get it erased? Just so it looks like it slaps me in the face? And I thought about it for a minute, and at first I thought, you know what? Yeah, I'm just gonna quit. I'm just gonna give up. I'm tired of it. It's pointless if this is always gonna happen. So I guess you could say I was a little bit immature about it, but you gotta understand, this is constant. It's not like it's something that happened once or twice. No, this has happened like 5, 6 times, and it takes a lot on me mentally, because it breaks me, and it's hard to want to keep doing something when you know that something's gonna go wrong. But I digress. So the computer was pretty much destroyed after I plugged in this microphone, and I sat there and I was wondering what I was going to do. So for that whole day, I was stressing because I really wanted to get this podcast out there, and I was really not trying to have to rewrite my books again. Excuse me. So I go and I took the day to myself. I just washed some clothes. I sat in a dark room and did aromatherapy with some incenses I bought. I tried everything I could to calm myself down. And at first nothing was working, so I decided to message my best friend, who I consider my brother. I'm not going to give out his real name only because I don't want to disclose any personal information, so I'm going to call him a nickname that we have for him, which is Salem. So Salem's like my brother. I love this guy. And he was always the positive side of the coin, where I was more of the negative. And I messaged him and I told him, like, bro, my computer just blew up. And he was like, what do you mean it blew up? And I told him, I was like, it's not that it blew up, but it's the fact that it crashed and everything's gone. And he was like, are you serious? And I told him, I was like, yeah, man. So I told him the whole situation and everything that happened. And this was one of the first times that when he messaged me, he was like, I understand if you do give up. I understand if you decide to stop and, not work for it anymore, because it is tough. It's hard getting that, thrown back into your face, because it feels like a waste of time. And he knows me as well as anyone else who knows me. I hate wasting my time. So he kept telling me, to try to keep my head up. Things will be all right. That the world has a mysterious way of working, just to give it time. And to me, it's like I've given it enough time. I've ran into so many obstacles trying to get my ideas out there, that I didn't want to do it. So I kind of disregarded what he was telling me at first. him being positive and all that, and me faced and just with negativity, just pure negativity. So a few hours had passed. It was turning night, and my cousin messaged me. A nickname for him is Zion. So Zion sends me a text message, and he's like, "Hey, bro, are you up?" And I messaged him back. I said, "Yeah, I'm up. I'm just not really in a good mood." And he had asked why. So again, I broke down the situation with the computer to him. And Zion and I are two sides to the same coin, but the difference is that both sides of the coin are the same exact picture. It's just one's a little more rugged than the other. We know each other inside and out. It's crazy. It's almost like we have twin syndrome and we could read each other's thoughts. But all he ended up telling me was, keep your head up. It'll be all right. Don't let it discourage you. And I didn't respond to his message when I read it at first. I was just like, yeah, that's what everyone's telling me. But after, like, I think it was probably half an hour of just sitting in the dark with this aromatherapy going on, I was like, you know what? They're right. I was like, if these ideas and if these creations that I want to get to the world are that important to me, I won't just give up no matter how many obstacles or no matter how many trials and tribulations I go through. So I put my mind to it. I was like, you know what? Whenever the time comes, whenever I get a new computer, I'll go ahead and I'll start it all again. And I'll keep starting it all again no matter what. I was like, I'm going to find a way to get myself out there. I'm going to find a way to have people hear my voice for the first time in my life. And I guess the laws of the universe heard me and they took me seriously for the first time. And it was about 3 o'clock in the morning. So my dad comes out and he was looking at me. He was like, hey, are you okay? Did you do your podcast? And I'm like, nah, I wasn't able to do it. I told him the whole thing about the computer. And that's where he looked at me and he was like, well, I got some good news for you. And pretty much what ended up happening was we had the funds to get a new computer. Now, here's the thing. Even though we had the funds to get a new computer, I didn't want to waste those funds on getting a new computer. We could have used it for anything else, but my dad was really set on getting this computer. So what ended up happening was I had to find a good deal on one, and I did. But they said that the closest one to me was located in Lady Lake. I live in like a little town in Florida called Altamont. Lady Lake from Altamont is like 35 miles. It's kind of a deep drive just to go out there to get a good deal on a computer. Because what you're going to save on savings, you're pretty much going to be wasting in gas, especially when you got a poopy ass car. So we were going to go whenever we woke up from going to bed that late. And we ended up waking up at like 10 in the morning. What ended up happening was my dad told me to go to the Best Buy in our town. And I did. We went over there. And the computer that I was looking for to meet my standards and what I would need it to do, which is hardcore video editing, Microsoft Word and stuff like that. And I also needed it to run quiet too while I did podcasts in this enclosed room. Because if it had a loud fan, it would be hard to do this recording. And the price on the computer when I was looking at it was like $1,200. And I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be spending $1,200 or I'm going to be letting my dad spend that kind of scratch on getting me a computer, even though it's like a Christmas gift. So I was telling him, don't worry about it. It's fine. Again, when the time comes, I'll end up getting a computer. It'll be fine. And the guy working at Best Buy came up to me and he said, oh, you're looking for a computer? And I looked at him. I'm like, yeah, I am. Do you have a computer that meets these qualifications? Everything that this computer has, but just not as expensive. And he was like, yeah, I do. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, can I see it? And he grabbed the box of that computer that I was looking at that was $1,200. And I was like, yeah, that's great and all. I understand that that's the computer that has those stats and all that, but I don't have that money on me. He was like, well, let's go over here and do a price check on them. Let's see how much this is. You know, we have the deals going on because of Black Friday through Cyber Monday, so let's go ahead and check that out. So I was like, all right. I was like, let's go ahead and humor this guy. Let's see what happens. So he scans the computer, and the computer ends up ringing out at $400. And I looked at the guy, and I looked at my dad, and then I looked back at the guy, and I was like, is that right? I was like, it's $400 for this computer. And he was like, yeah. He was like, you know, with the deals and everything, this model got dropped down this much, and this is the last one we have in stock. He was like, we just got this shipment from this truck this morning, and this was the only one coming in. He was like, and we just put it out maybe 25 minutes ago. So I just sat there looking at it, and I was like, and that's the same computer that's up there. He was like, yep, same thing, nothing's different. He was like, other than this one's in the box, brand new, ready to go. And I was like, wow. I was like, 400. And he was like, yeah. And right as I went to go ask my dad if that was okay, he was already paying for it. And he looked at me, and the words he told me were something that I'm really gonna keep to heart now. Is no matter what, as long as I can support you in achieving your dreams, I'm gonna do it. He said, I didn't like seeing you destroyed like that. I know what you've went through to get your books written, and I know what you've went through to get yourself out there. I know that you've devoted yourself. So I want to do what I can to help you, and I know what's going to help you is getting you a brand new computer that's not going to mess up on you, and if it does mess up on you, it has a warranty so you can get another one, and you can keep getting another one if they keep blowing up, so that way you can do what you have to do. And I sat there in shock because for the first time, hearing that from him, it didn't sound like it was coming from my father. It wasn't like a father telling his son like I'm going to support you. It felt more than that. And again, not because of what he had bought me, but because of the tone of his voice and the way how he looked at me. And he seemed to honestly feel my pain that I was feeling from, having my dreams crushed again. And he told me he didn't want to see that ever again. And that really got to me. And then also seeing my cousin Zion, who he feeds off of my energy, and I saw him, he was feeling down because I was feeling down, even though we were trying our best to, not worry about it, but he knew how hurt I was. And my brother Salem, he knew too, but he kept messaging me, trying to get my mind off of it. And all that came together, and that brings me back to the point of coincidences. I don't think it was a coincidence. Well, yeah, I do not believe that it was a coincidence the computer I was using at the time gave out on me. I believe that that computer went out on me because it was time for me to get something new. It was time for me to finally get something that wasn't a hand me down, or that hasn't already done its job and it's worn out. So seeing that, I too felt this is a new beginning for me. This year alone, I started going to the gym, I started working out, and I feel like a totally different person. I feel so much more comfortable with myself, and I'm not giving up on that either. But just the feeling of it's great. It's great just to see, or not just to see. I'm sorry. It's great to sit there and be comfortable with yourself when you've never been comfortable with yourself your whole life. Excuse me. When you were always judged, or when if you were always judged, you know what I'm talking about. No matter what you did, no matter where you went, you knew somebody was judging you just for the way you looked, the way you walked, the way you talked, the way you took in a breath to breathe like every other normal human being. You know that feeling of all eyes on you. And those eyes shouldn't be on you for those reasons. I wanted to change that. So I did. And I took the first step. And someone who supported me with that first step is my blood brother. And not going to give out his name either, but we call him Fano. that guy, we have a crazy relationship. You know, I'll get into that a little bit later. Let me get back to coincidences. I didn't see it as bad omen after everything came together. I saw it more as a growing, like I was talking about. And it helped me to open my eyes in a sense of there are people there who are willing to help you and willing to support you and willing to get you to the point of reaching your dreams even when you think there's not. They're watching and they're listening. They could be your family, they could be your friends, they could be a pen pal, or they could be a secret admirer. But just know that someone at all times is watching what you're going through, seeing the way you smile, seeing the way you frown, seeing the way you cry, and seeing the way you think. Someone's watching. And I don't mean that in like a stalker way. I mean that in a genuine way. Somebody is watching, and somebody is going to be there to help you when you think nobody is. I mean, unless like you've pushed everyone away in your life, then that's kind of a personal problem. But, you know, I'm pretty sure you guys get what I'm saying. So, I got this new computer. I got the setup in my closet. I got this microphone. To me, for what I was able to afford with the microphone, it's doing its job. I think it sounds pretty good. I don't know if it's picking up any, little ticks or tacks here and there because this is my first time doing a whole podcast with it. I've only been doing like 2 to 5 minute little snippets of me talking about I don't even know what. I think at one point I was reading a page of The Great Gatsby.
And for me, I'm very pleased with it. I hope you guys are also pleased with it. But before I get on to this next segment, which is going to be a little story about myself, I'm going to go ahead and get in tune with Mother Nature. So, what I'm going to bring up is the first day that I ever laid lips on marijuana. Man, I was in 9th grade and I was getting ready to go to school. I had a test for my English honors class. The teacher's name was Miss Fields. She was something else. I'm not going to say anything bad about her, But let's just say I struggled a lot in her class. I had a 0.3 F in her class. I never knew it was possible to get below 1% as an overall percentile in a grade. But I digress. I ended up walking to the bus stop, and at the bus stop, my friend was there. Now, I'm not going to use his real name either. I'm going to go ahead and use just an alias. I'm going to call him Yando. So, Yando was chilling there. And he looks at me and he sees me stressing out. He comes up to me. He's like, "Hey, bro, why you pacing so much?" And I looked at him and I told him, I was like, "Dude, I got a test to take in Miss Fields' class. I'm not ready for it. I'm already failing her class. This is just going to bring what little F I have to complete 0. And my parents are going to kill me." So he looks at me. He starts nodding his head and he goes, "Yeah, all right, I feel that, man." He was like, "Well, why don't you calm down a little bit?" And he reached into his pocket and he pulled out a little beautiful black box. And in that box, when he opened it up, was little red velvet cushioning with 2 rolled joints, just chilling, ready to be smoked. And this being my first time, I didn't know what it was. To me, it looked like, some weird looking cigarettes. And I was like, "You're trying to make me smoke a cigarette?" And Yando said, "Nah, man, this is weed." He was like, "Come on, take a hit. It'll calm you down." It was like one of those
bad drug infomercials that try to get you away from weed. Like, you get that one weird kid who comes up to you to try to get you to smoke it, telling you it'll make you cool or something, and then, like, your brains blow up or some shit like that. So I was kind of sketching out at first, and I was like, nah, man, I can't smoke weed. It's a drug. My parents would kill me if they found out. And I'm going to school. If I go to school high, I'm going to get fucking expelled. Man, well, you're a bad influence. And then, Yando starts laughing, and he says, man, if you take a hit of this, you won't even remember what test you're even worrying about. He said, you won't be stressing over nothing. So anything for that moment to me to get this anxiety off my chest, I was like, you know what, fine, light one up. So he did. He sparked the first joint, and he passed it to me. I started taking a hit, and then he lit up the second one. And he told me to keep the first one and smoke it all. So I did. And while we were smoking, we were waiting for the bus to come. It was about 25 minutes, and the bus arrived. We had already finished smoking the J's. I wasn't feeling anything, but Yando was feeling it. And I looked at him. I was like, Yando, we're going to smell like weed. I was like, we're going to smell like weed, and we're going on a public bus. This is public transportation to take us to a public school where there's teachers, principals, and fucking cops. I was like, and they're gonna find out we smoked, man. And I don't know what's gonna happen from there, but I know it ain't gonna be good. And he was like, nah, dude, it's good. I got some cologne in my backpack. So he didn't have cologne. He had fucking Axe. And he sprayed us down with Axe like we were some middle school boys that just got in the gym and were trying to smell good for the ladies. And I was like, damn, man. I was like, I don't think this is gonna work. So we started getting on the bus, and just as we got to our seats, like two people up in front were like, damn, it smells like somebody smoked weed and put on some cheap cologne to cover it up. And Yando starts dying laughing. Like, he can't breathe. And I'm trying to figure out what's so funny, because at this moment, the weed's not hitting me. I'm too fucking scared, thinking I'm going to get caught to enjoy what high would have been there. And all he does is he keeps laughing, and he looks at me with his eyes all low, and he says, dude, that's exactly what we did. And I just looked at him like he was fucking nuts. I was like, you were enjoying this, and people are catching on to the shtick that we just pulled. So he pulls out his phone like nothing's going on, and he starts being more illegal by watching a pirated version of Scott Pilgrim versus the World. And I'm like, dude, I was like, all right. So he gets into my chair where I'm sitting on the bus, and he was like, dude, let's watch this. This is the best thing to watch while you're baked. And I was telling him that I wasn't feeling it, and he was like, don't worry, this will help you feel it. The colors will probably get you going. So we watched about like 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, because it was a pretty long bus ride. And we get to we get to school, we get off the bus, and we head to the breakfast line. And while we're in the line, Yando was asking me if I'm good, and I was telling him, yeah, that I wasn't feeling anything, that I feel like I just wasted my lungs by smoking that. And he was like, damn, I'm shocked you smoked a whole joint. Are you sure you haven't smoked before? And I was like, yeah, man, I've never smoked. So I'm waiting, we're getting in the line's slowly moving, and now I'm still remembering the test. I'm still remembering that I'm going to fail this test. And the lunch lady was talking to the girl in front of me, and she was getting really loud. And I don't remember why. But I turned around to look at Yando to tell him, that this lunch lady was going ham. And just as I turned around, the world shifted. I saw the kids that were walking behind the line to get breakfast. They kind of looked like they were levitating on an escalator. I saw the aura of everyone around me. It was crazy. And all I could do at that moment was turn back around from looking at Yando to looking at the back of the head of the girl in front of me that was arguing with the lunch lady. And I lost it. I couldn't help it. I was just laughing. I was chuckling. I was giggling. My eyes went bloodshot. And I turned to look at Yando again. And Yando was like, oh, there it is. It got you. It got you. And I couldn't say anything. All I could do was keep on laughing. And I was like, oh, man, I'm next. How am I gonna do this? So I get up to the breakfast line, the lady's looking at me, and she's giving me this face like, you motherfucker. You fucking delinquent. I know exactly what you're on right now. She was giving me this stank look. And I was like, oh shit. Let me get a chicken biscuit and a cookie with the chocolate milk. And she was like, is that all you want? And if this was any other day, I would have thought she was trying to call me fat, but I knew at that moment that she knew I was high as shit. And she was trying to ask me that because she knew that I was high as shit. So I told her, yeah, that's all I want. She gave me the stuff, and I left. I went to go sit down, and as I'm sitting down, Yando comes, and he's got 2 chicken biscuits, 4 chocolate chip cookies, and 2 chocolate milks. Now keep in mind, Yando's like 6'1", and he probably weighs about $160, if that. He's thin and lanky. So I'm watching him get all this food, and I'm like, dude, I was like, you must be really hungry. He was like, bro, I got the munchies. I wasn't experiencing the munchies more than I was experiencing, the little visual waves and the feeling of, not feeling my face. So I'm looking down at the table, and I'm seeing the table shifting, and I'm watching my chicken biscuit dance around the table. And then my bro Salem comes, and he sits in front of me. He was like, hey, Robert, what's up, man? I'm like, hey, man, nothing much, just chilling. And I keep looking down. I can't look him in the face. He was like, dude, you good? Everything all right? You're talking kind of low. And I looked up at him, and I was like, yeah, man. And then his eyes just widened. He was like, Robert, your eyes are red as shit. And, I kind of smirked. I felt the smirk come on my face. And I was just like, nah, yeah, man. I'm just real tired. I ain't getting no sleep, man. Nah. And I just started dying laughing. And Salem just said, Robert. And he said my whole government. Robert William Rosario. I can't even right now. You are... How could you? And then he sat there and he put on this sad face, and he was like, I thought you were going to smoke with me for your first time. And I kept laughing. I was just still laughing. And I was like, oh, man, this is great. And then Salem was like, dude, you're this fucking schmacked, and you're about to go into Miss Fields' class to take that test. And I looked at him, and then I looked at Yando, and then I looked back at Salem, and I was like, man, fuck that test. And Yando started choking on his chocolate milk and his cookie. And he was like, I told you you weren't going to give a shit about that fucking test. You weren't going to, you're high as shit. You're feeling good. That's all that matters. And I was like, you know what? You're right. You know what? I'm going to pass this test. You know what? Just because I'm high now, I've unlocked the universe. I'm going to walk into that classroom and I'm going to ace this shit. I'm going to look at Miss Fields straight in her face and be like, I dare you to find something wrong with this paper. And so I did. I went into Miss Fields' class. I sat down. I got the test. And the courage that this marijuana gave me, I just started writing down shit like I knew it. And let me tell you what, when I got that paper back when I was sober, Robert, I said, what the fuck did I write down on here? Because not only did I get an F, I got an unscorable F. It was just an F with a 0, and the 0 had circles around it, so you could know how big the 0 that I got. And I was like, wow. I was like, that is, wow. And since that point, anytime that I had to do a test that I knew I was going to fail, I made sure I smoked some marijuana. Because if I was going to fail it, I was going to fail it with some style, and I was going to fail it not giving a shit. So that's what I did. And that was the first day I had ever gotten high. Because I was so nervous that I was going to fail the test that I ended up failing, but I just ended up not caring about failing that test at that point. And nothing bad happened. I mean, yeah, sure, I failed it, and my parents were like, Robert, are you fucking stupid? But, I graduated. I'm out of that hellhole. So, I guess, weed didn't affect me all that bad. And since then, I got plenty of like first time high stories. Like after that, like when I first tried to find someone I could get it from, oh man, that was some shit. I didn't know how to go about it. You're telling a freshman in high school who just had his first taste of Sweet Mary Jane to just find the right person and be like, "Hey man, you got some of that green on you?" Like how are you gonna do that? How do you do that without seeming awkward or seeming like a fiend? But I found a way. Usually it just comes. You just kind of find someone who smokes, and they just ask you like, "Hey man, you smoke?" And you're like, "Yeah, I do." And then they go, "Shit, I could hook you up, man." And then right there, you got to connect. Marijuana has been a very, very social opener for me. It breaks the ice very easily. Like instead of me having a drink and being like, "Hey, what's in your cup?" I'm more like, "You smoke some trees?" And if the response is yeah, then right then and there I want to try to be your friend. I ain't got no reason to hate on you. I ain't got no reason to be mad at you. I would rather try to make a friendship than try to make an enemy, because at the end of the day, nobody wants enemies. Everyone wants someone around them that, they can resonate with, that they can hang with, you know. And doing this podcast, I'm hoping that I'm doing that with some of you guys. I want you to feel like you're sitting with a friend right now, and if you're drinking, or maybe if you're deciding to take some hits with me, you feel cool, you feel calm, you feel collected, and you probably forgot about a majority of today's stress. And I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate all the support. I will be back. I will do another podcast. It will be longer. But for right now, I was just testing the waters. I was testing this mic setup. And I gotta say, I'm pretty content with this. I'm hoping to keep this going for as long as I can. I appreciate the support. And I hope to see you guys next time on One's a Crowd. This has been Robert. Have a good night, everyone.